morning. Welcome to a wonderful Monday night. And it's wonderful because I'm the only one who does not care about tonight's football game of the three of us that are sitting here. But I do want to thank everybody for taking time out of your Monday night to join us. I do definitely appreciate that. Tonight's topic, it's not a Ben Stowe topic. It sounds like it's going to be a Ben Stowe
It
topic.
probably will feel like a Ben Stowe topic at times, but we're going to say Covey kind of rein it in just a little bit. Don't get too technical. We don't need to know about
Yeah,
gigahertz and such or
because I'm that
kilo.
guy. I'm that
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, exactly. Let me tell you what all these little things will do in this connection. Don't go there. Don't go there. But yeah, tonight, guys.
But we are
Yeah,
glad.
yeah, we're going to talk audio tonight and audio connections because this is one of those topics that Ben and I have talked about numerous times, and it is something that in the chat rooms, people are, how can I connect this to that? How can I make this work with that and do different things? And of course, this past fall with what Michael and I have been doing, we've been running audio a number of different ways to make these connections from one device to another. And that's what we're really kind of going to dig into of situations and such of where you might be doing something beyond the traditional. And to give you kind of a baseline of that, Kevin, I want to start with your stuff as far as what you do. From the device that plays the music, okay, which is your computer, take me through the from that device to the ultimate making noise side of it. What is the path of how the electricity flows through from what to what?
It goes from laptop to controller to mixer, or controller to speakers. Pardon me.
And
So
that's
I don't use an external mixer. I know a lot of people do, and I may look into that next season. But I don't use an external mixer. Mine literally goes into, I use a Pioneer DJXX, and it goes directly from the computer to the controller out to the speakers.
and that's generally what most people do, especially if you've got the Evolve or the any number of the other the Maui systems or whatever. You're plugging one cable into the speaker and off you go. So we're talking about audio connections beyond that. If you want to know how to do gain structure and get your microphone set up for that system, that's a different video, and that'll be a different time and a different person because that's a Ben Stowe. Because then he will pull out the flux capacitor and show you exactly how it works. Not us tonight. So, Cubby, let's go that direction. You mentioned that this second mixer. First off, why have you never jumped into utilizing a second mixer? Because you've heard people talk about that online.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people do it. I just haven't implemented it yet. I don't, because I have one on site for my ceremony. So it would be real easy to just have another one, to go from ceremony into to reception. Just never have, I think. For me, the Pioneer's done well. I haven't had any problems with it. I guess, like I said, because I knock on wood, I guess because I haven't had any problems with it, I haven't really gone much further than that.
What have you heard that's been a benefit to using it that make you even consider adding a second mixer? When we're talking a second mixer, we're talking like a little 8-channel, like a 10-channel board is what, for those of you, if I could, okay, I'm going to just make this ugly, that type of a board. Mm-hmm. So there you go. You got to see
Look at that cable management.
Exactly. There is nothing for cable management right there because this gets changed over. So I don't even bother. That's the type of board we're talking about. So, Cubby, why would you, what have you heard or the advantages of that?
Yeah, better sound, better, you have more control because you can set a level on your mixer, then go to your controller. But those are those are a couple different reasons. Your microphone's on a different channel because a lot of people say that Pioneer mixers, their microphones channels are not very good. So if you run your microphone through your external mixer versus your Pioneer, then you get a better sound to it. So those are the options that I've heard. Like I said, but I haven't delved directly deeply into it, mostly because we're running and gunning like at all times. And so I was hoping this off season in February, which I get through with all my corporate events in December and January, that I can maybe sit down and research some more before we crank back up in March.
Dan, now have you used a second mixer in your equation?
Yeah, I mean, it depends upon which setup I'm using. But the one that I prefer, the rolling booth, has an external mixer in it. Yes.
And how do you connect that as far as kind of like Cubby mentioned, going from computer to there? How is your sound flow with that when you're utilizing it?
Computer to controller, controller to the Studio Live 16R, from there into speakers. Mics go directly into the mixer, and then mixer to speakers.
Okay, and that is pretty much the common way. For those of you who have wondered why, or the idea of it, it was, as Cubby has mentioned, is that it's generally because of the microphones. Most of our DJ boards, the mic inputs are adequate, if even adequate, and many of them they're very poor. I run a 7000, and there's a little bit of control for tonality of it, but you've got an XLR coming in, a balanced signal that comes in, and you have an a quarter-inch jack coming in with the second microphone. And again, limited tonality control, which once we move to a board that I have a Yamaha here that I'm showing, or showed a little before, but there are some of these smaller boards that have a lot of capability beyond what the Yamaha has. Obviously, it's a money, how much you're willing to spend. The idea behind that, of course, is that controller, poor mic inputs, I can put a microphone through this and put it to my speakers, and all of a sudden I can have that radio station voice if I wanted to have it. It can really sound much better, and it could be one of those things where I have my microphone set for one sound, and I can put some processing on it and make myself sound like Darth Vader, and the other microphone could be up at the head table and have a completely different setting, and you can't do that with a controller. So that's really multiple mics and better quality microphone is the first part of it. Some people feel that they can get louder with their music. I think that one's a little bit of a tough one, kind of a stretch. I don't give that one. I think the biggest thing when it comes to the music side of it is it's one more knob. And I don't know your experience, Dan, if you've had it where you've plugged in and sometimes you feel like you're overdriving the channel, or what have you seen?
Well, I think for me, it also depends upon the controller. So I have the 7000. I had no issue with that running the 7000 and the mics, because I could control a master that was just an overall master. And so the individual channels would go in the software and the mic would work on its own. My Roland, the master, controls the master volume in the software in virtual DJ. And so when I turn up the master to try and help my mic get a little bit higher, it brings the music up. It like brings everything up with it. So you don't have as much control depending upon the controller that you have. Some of them have that separation a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, with the 7000.
Yeah. The Roland is definitely kind of a unique beast, and I think depending upon which software you're using, I think some software handles it differently. It's been my experience so far. Not that I've done a ton of things with it, but I've had about the same problem you've had with trying to separate things out. So yeah, there's some different ways, different advantages to that. The big question people come back with on that is, how do I go from running for the music side of it? How do I run the music from the DJ controller to that? And there's a couple of different types of connections, and Ben Stowe has talked about this. We talked about RCA connections. The back of your board generally has a master out that is they're XLRs, and I'm guessing you guys use that for your speakers. XLR out of your controller into your speakers. So you have two XLRs, and that's what we typically use. Then typically there are two RCAs in that master out, and DJs are like, well, I take the master out, instead of putting them into the speakers, I put them into the mic inputs into the board that I bring in. That can be done. That does lead to some potential problems when it comes to the sound and the gain structure. The best way to do it, and Ben Stowe has talked about this, when you can, you always want to use the RCAs. Dan, you've done the RCAs, isn't that the way how are you jumping over to it?
So from controller to mixer, I use the XLR outs.
Okay.
The main outs, and go into the mixer from there.
To go in that, are you going into just one of the, in essence, mic jacks and plugging in and setting the gain so it's not overdriving?
So this is kind of a little bit more powerful than the one that you were showing. It's a digital mixer, and it's really just a setting of saying, hey, this is not, it's a combo jack type of thing, and it recognizes kind of almost immediately, unless I start messing with some preamp settings on it. So it recognizes that it's that it's a line in that I'm using with it.
And there's where I'm headed to, is there's kind of a line level and there's a mic level. And mic level is generally much more sensitive because it's such a tiny signal. Many, I don't have my the SM58 as an example, industry standard microphone. There's no electricity in it and there's no batteries in it, so it's sending out a mic signal, mic level signal, which is very a very low amount of voltage, because the only voltage that it's sending out is basically what that little diaphragm fluttering with the magnets inside the microphone, what it is able to produce and send through. So that's very low. Line level is going to give you much more. It is a much higher voltage of more power coming through. So when Dan's saying it kind of automatically sees it, that's a wonderful capability. For most boards like mine, well, you turn it to the left and you're going to be, you're down at the line level. You turn it to the right where you're boosting, and that's your mic level. Yeah, I think actually it says that on the gain of this board, if I'm not mistaken. But for some people that can be a problem, because if they have it set too high, with the line level, you can drive or overdrive it. And maybe it's the other way around. It's left is the line level and right is the mic level. I can't see it. It's too dark right over there.
On my Eevee, on the back of my, I think it's on the back of my
Eevees. Line level this way.
They've got, it's left for mic and right for line. I don't know why.
Yeah,
because I get the idea, like you're boosting it more, right? You're boosting it more. You should go to the right. And maybe I'm misremembering.
Yeah, and I can't. Again, I'm somewhat blind here. For those of you, you've got the idea. Is that it can be, it's a functional thing, but now there's more potential problems in that gain structure thing. So Ben again recommends basically the RCAs out of the main board. You can set everything at unity on your main controller, going into the little board, and then you only have basically, in this particular case, I think I've got on that it might have a couple of EQ, and then it has a couple of gains, and that's it. So you have less than on the microphone channels, because then I have compression, I have some different whatever those yellow knobs are. I can't see them from here. But there's more things to go wrong. And it seems that whenever you give a DJ a knob, they're going to turn it. And sometimes when they turn the knob, they're going to make a mess, especially if it's a staff member. Oh, look, this pretty knob. It's not working. I mean, that never happens. So that's one of the connections. Now to talk about the difference between those two connections. One of them is the RCA is basically a 2-contact connection. You've got your negative and you've got your signal coming across on one of the 2 wires, and of course it's stereo. So then there's signal coming on 2 of the wires, and then in essence the other 2 are the ground or the negative, whatever. But the information for the music is coming through on 2 of the wires. The balanced that Dan is using is coming out of his board as a balanced signal. What that basically means is that there's one that's kind of the common or the ground or negative, however you want to think of it as. So that's basically there just to give the positive information the ability to loop through or to be able to make that contact. But you have one pin in the XLR that is receiving the audio signal, and if you've kind of think of it as audio waves, the waves are going and they're headed off to it. The other pin in this configuration, because there's 3 pins in an XLR, is doing the absolute opposite wave function. So in essence, if this wave is cresting here, this one is doing the complete inverse of it, so it's going down. And the two to visualize is that basically one signal is coming through properly, one of them is like turning the record player backwards, kind of a thing. But it's not. But I mean, it's the inverse sound of it. And the idea behind the balanced is that those 2 signals, my first device sends them right and inverted, then the other end of the device, it's taking the 2 and it's putting them back together again. Now sometimes when we're sending that to a cheaper board, it's ignoring that other pin, so there can be some sound issues. So people are thinking, oh, I've got this nice long XLR and I can do that and it will be perfect. Sometimes a cheaper board, when it comes to that, doesn't handle that properly, because the idea behind it is that these 2 sound signals are coming together. They get there, and then the device takes the 2 and says, okay, now we're going to invert that one that was inverted. So now we're going to put them back together, and if there's any anomalies that have been picked up in the wire between point A and point B, if it doesn't match what the other wire has after it's been inverted, it's being taken out. So there's this kind of a weird little voodoo that's going on to be able to keep this signal as clean as possible. Now, if that device isn't catching that other pin and inverting it back and doing that, you've lost your voodoo. So now you might as well just stay with the RCA because you're not getting any benefit of the actual balanced connection. I have seen a couple of Chinese boards. They came in and literally it said it was a balanced connection, and I opened it up and looked in there, and it had pin 2 was soldered to, and pin, what is it? The bottom pin and the pin 2 were the two that were soldered to. Pin 3 was not even soldered to, which is the inverse connection. So it said, yes, we have a balanced connection. It's like, no, you have an XLR jack. You don't have a balanced connection. You have, but no one would ever know it unless you had an issue. So it can work. It's just Dan has to kind of manage it a little bit more, but it's probably for most DJs not the most ideal in that connection.
I've got other reasons why I do mine. So
yeah, and it could be the ease of the system, and as because you switch your systems. You're not running the same your cart there that you're using your booth. You don't use that the same way each and every weekend. So in some weeks you're using it, in some weeks you're not. You're using a different one because of...
It always comes with the rolling booth. It doesn't go with the Danny Max booth, and only because of space.
Yeah.
If I had the option, I would use it every week.
That was my thinking. Go ahead.
Yeah. You and I can talk more details about that because there are some possible workarounds that I know, but I just didn't want to go down that route. I have 2 of the Personas and I like them. And like I said, I would use them every week. I like the sound. I like the flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking audio connections tonight. So if anybody wants to know the details behind my reasons why, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to talk with you all night long about the different pros that I have to it. And really the only couple negatives.
Yeah, Robin mentions when 1 and 3 are soldered together, which is, and that's definitely not a balanced connection. And specifically when Dan's talking about a Personas, he's not talking about a $99 board. It's a little bit more expensive and much better quality components inside there. So that can actually make one of these little Hercules controllers sound good. Because a Hercules controller is only needing to do a little bit, and it's not having to push out such a strong signal. It sends that line signal over to Dan's Personas, and then the Personas, with its better inputs and different preamps on the channels, can take that and boost that and make it sound like a much, much better board. So there's
ceremonies.
Yep, there's definitely advantages to that. I've got the little Numark to go to, and if I just run it straight from that to a speaker, it's like, oh, that's nice. But if I take it to the big Personas board, I've got the 20 channel one that I bought one like the church has. It sounds like a completely different system. Balanced versus unbalanced is really all about that pin, that pin 3, and how that works there, Day. If that's something Ben and I've gotten into more, but balance, the idea behind that is if it's proper on both ends, meaning both devices are wired properly and do what they're supposed to do, it will allow you to run a hundreds of feet XLR cable, good quality XLR cable, and it won't pick up much of any interference, and you won't have any noise entered into the equation. An unbalanced is basically just 2 wires, a hot and a cold. We'll just think of it that way. And the information is coming in on the hot, and if it picks up interference from fluorescent lights, or even LED lights can interfere nowadays. If it's picking up any interference, that interference is going to be just passed right on through to the next device. So a balanced is not going to protect the audio signal, and it's typically run 20 feet or less. An unbalanced. A balanced one can go, it could be a few feet, it could be hundreds of feet, pretty much, and you're going to have a decent chance of having a good signal at the other end. So unbalanced short, balanced long.
So here's a question that I was kind of wondering when we kind of started down this path is, if it sounds like the balanced are the better options, why are we even messing with unbalanced?
I think it's just a price point. It really is. I mean, it's kind of like going to microphones where we're talking about diversity and true diversity, and then non-diversity. It's really a price point. We can get a board with balanced connections and a good balanced connections and good preamps and good things cost what your PreSonus does. You can get a board that has nothing for balanced connections. It's all unbalanced and they're less expensive. And that's the $45 the $45 mixer that people can use for ceremonies. It'll work. It may not have the nicest sound. It may not have the ability to get you. It may have problems with whatever it is, but it can function. It just isn't the greatest tool. Okay, so we can do that for the now. Let's take a look at from speakers because we've got to get to our first speaker, however we get to it with an XLR cable, of whatever length. And generally, because we're coming out of a board, it's going to be a balanced out into a balanced in for the speakers. And for most every speaker I've dealt with, the balanced in have been balanced ins. I've taken apart 4 of them here, I think. One was a complete Chinese one, and it was actually looked like wired properly. And the other ones were, there was an Eevee, a Yamaha, and a Alto. And all 3 of those were wired properly, so it wasn't like there was any disconnect there. So it seemed to be complete, solid, balanced coming out of my board and into those. Going beyond that, having remote speakers. It seems like almost every show this year, I was using a secondary more speakers, whether it was more speakers to jump to the far end of the room because it was an unusual long room, or I was jumping to a room next door. Cubby, have you done anything with remote speakers like that?
No, we haven't had, my venues that we have here that we haven't really had a need for it.
You haven't had a need. How about Dan? Have you had done anything?
Do wireless if I'm going to go remote. I don't go 1-to-1.
Okay.
Like I don't run it. Yeah.
So let's dig into that. That's where I want to head. So kind of talk us through what you have experienced and how you've been doing the wireless side of things.
Again, I feel like a Ben Stowe show. It depends. So I've got 2 different methods that I utilize with this, probably again, depending upon the system that I'm using. So case in point, with my ceremony system, I have an IEM send
in-ear
and
monitor for
receiver.
those of you wondering. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, in-ear monitor. So I have the half rack, sender type of piece. Like I don't use like a belt pack for the send. It's like an actual IEM box. And then on the receiving end, at the speaker's placement is the belt pack that goes with the IEM, the in-ear monitor system. When it comes to reception, because I've been using that for ceremony, I had needed something else set up for the system. So in the reception, in that case, I have 2 Sennheiser belt packs. I think it's like a videographer's type of pack with some special cables that are connected there. And again, kind of depending upon what I have access to. So if I'm using my case where I don't have a lot of stuff, so when I'm using the Danny Mac stand, there's not really a lot of space to put some of these things, without having to like pop covers and do all that kind of stuff. I will run out of the mix out of my Evolve 50s,
Okay.
or I forget on Eevee on EKX if it's called mix out, if it's called through.
There's only one. On the Evolves have two output potentials, and the rest of the EV lines.
Oh yeah, because there's nothing you're mixing together.
Yeah, there's not on the rest of them. It's just an out or through or whatever.
Yeah, so it's just the out on that one. So I'll hook into that, and then wherever I need to go for the remote, I plug in the other one, and again, it's just like the belt pack, and they work pretty nicely. When I have my rolling booth, because I had the PreSonus, I actually have auxiliary channels that I can commit solely to. I'm going to send this signal to that speaker. So I have one venue in particular. This one I don't actually run wireless for. They have a speaker set up in their dining area. It's kind of like around the corner from where I'm set up. And so they've got a really nice, they've got a nice speaker cable running to it, and I can plug that into a different out, an auxiliary out, if you will, from my mixer, so that I can say, okay, in the main area, I don't need my microphones working. I don't need the dance music going because there's nobody in there. They're all in the dinner. So I can send the dinner, I can send the mics, I can send all that stuff over to that other speaker.
Nice. Really gives you some flexibility then with the different options.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I like the fact that it gives me that control that I can hone in, because one advantage to having an external mixer, especially something like this, if you're using auxiliary out, if I need to, because that's a different type of speaker that's back there, that's going to have a different ring out value back there. I need to be able to make sure that something that doesn't cause feedback in my main room doesn't suddenly then cause feedback because I avoid it in the main room, but somehow I cause it in the other room.
Right.
I can ring it out on its own piece, and that's one of the things that I like is just that flexibility of the EQ piece to change.
And you're able to take your wireless microphone then and kind of walk between the rooms in that venue to be able to make a
We're
noise.
not talking a super long distance. It's
Mhm.
just it's an like dance floor facing this way. Dinner's like it's a barn, right? So dinner's like back and think if it was like an L shape,
Yep.
like a backwards L, right? Dance floor is in the bottom of the L and dinner's at the top of the L.
Sure.
Like that's kind of the idea behind it. So yeah, different, just kind of the different place, but it works without an issue. I even in order to have my digital one work, it has to run off of um it has to run off of an app because there's only one unit space. Like there's no sliders on it. It's
Mm.
just a one unit rack space. So an iPad uses it to control it. I can go in the back room,
Tweak it.
and that's one of the reasons why I like it. Tweak it. I can also turn it on during toast. I can turn it off when they
Nice.
decide to set the mic down, and I don't have to be at my booth going, okay, I can't
You can't
see.
see anything,
Did
yeah.
they set the mic down? I don't have to worry about that.
But you're the couple of things. Let's kind of unpack that a little bit. You're talking in-ear monitors.
Mm.
You've got the transmitter sending off, and there's a couple of different options. There's some Audio Technica makes a really nice one that Ben was talking about. Sennheiser makes a really nice one. I don't think Evie makes one yet. I haven't seen one, I don't believe. And then of course there's some lesser. There's probably other really nice ones, but then there's um, not Alto. Who made the one that they were selling though for main music? The Stealth. Was it Alto?
So I made a stealth. That was the nicer Alto Stealth was kind of a more common
There
one
was
for
a
a while.
Stealth and a Stealth Pro
Well, and that's even like you even mentioned Sennheiser. Sennheiser has two different ones
lines.
that they have. They and that was more recent. Like they had the main line, which is I mean, you probably could spend $1,500 to pick up, the transmitter and the two belt packs that are going to receive. Um, but then they also have like one that's more in the $500 range, if I remember correctly, and that's you know you're gonna it's depending upon how far you're needing to go, depending upon the type of signals you're dealing with, and what you're trying to get out of it. That might be a more inexpensive way to go. Not to mention like the little sticks, like I forget what they were even called, but like the Sennheiser sticks that you can
The
plug in.
XSWD are the
Thank you.
sticks. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's a weird little. Um, and the speaking of the Sennheiser stuff, I've that's what I use is when Dan's talking
Hmm.
to belt packs. That's what I use, and in the XSWD, those little sticks are the other part that I use quite often for the different audio jumps because we do an awful lot of those. I don't use in-ear systems yet. I have not gotten to that. I think Michael wants us to, but when you own one solution and then to go and invest in the next one, it's just like, oh man, I just got this working. And then, but that would make sense, especially when Ben was talking about the in-ear system and then putting a paddle on it to transmit. That's like, oh my gosh, that would be like the cat's meow, because then I could broadcast it hundreds of feet almost, within reason. But
I use a half wave. I use the half wave antenna on it, and get great results. Not
nice.
saying you can, not saying you can't use the paddle or you shouldn't use the paddle. I've contemplated using the paddles. For me, it comes to setup like space.
Yeah,
Just or I should not even set up space, but like carrying all the extra pieces, right? The antenna folds in and stays in the compartment, right? The paddle would have to be carried along extra.
exactly. And one more thing to have to haul upstairs in a barn. Let's talk for a second there with the wireless. Have you noticed a latency or any kind of lag issues when you have run that, or has it been pretty solid in your opinion?
Yeah, I have no with my in-ear monitor system, the Sennheiser that I have, no issues whatsoever. Keep in mind, I'm not trying to hear the sound to be used as a mix, right? And trying to make sure where it might be, a millisecond response difference. But when I'm up front and doing my sound check to see if everything's good, I'm speaking and I'm hearing it from the speakers almost almost
Instantaneous.
immediately. So it's from my mic, from my wireless mic up to the unit and down to the speakers. There's no notice of any lag.
So coming out of your mixer, then are you utilizing? Is it coming out as a quarter-inch jack, or are you coming out of an XLR jack to feed the in-ear monitor system?
XLR.
XLR. So it's coming out with the balance then and going in and feeding the Sennheiser, which I believe has a balanced, and then it does its little magic and sends it out to the packs as a stereo signal, if I'm not mistaken.
Hang on a second, because I said that, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking, because I have a patch panel on the back of mine, on
and
the back of my
and then coming out
ceremony case.
So when you're coming out of the Sennheiser pack, going into the speaker, you're going in.
Oh,
that one is that's 1/8" jack to XLR. Or,
correct.
Yeah, on that
correct.
one.
That is the case there.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking on the back of the Personas going into the IEM transmitter, and that's what I.
And this is
Okay,
typically
no, it does. I am using XLRs there. Okay, I had to look it up. I am using XLRs. They have quarter-inch, and when I'm feeding it for the videographer, etc., they're getting quarter-inch.
The
They're still
quarter-inch.
balanced. It's still balanced,
Which
but
is
it's
a tip ring sleeve connection compared to a tip sleeve connection. If you've ever looked at the quarter-inch a little bit, the old ones that we used to use for our headphones when we were, back in playing 8-track tapes, that was a quarter-inch tip ring sleeve, and now the other one's not. Okay, so jumping wirelessly, and the connections with that, I found the same thing when it comes to the lag or latency, that there just hasn't been anything that's been super noticeable, even when it's been in the same room and I've got 2 speakers going that way and 2 speakers basically coming back at me. The idea is I want to have the microphones and things during the cocktail hour and the sound in those corners, so that I don't have to be playing super loud up here, especially if I'm up near the head table. I love the idea, Dan, that you're using a different output, so I can have control of my sound here and I can have control of my sound out there. That's something that I do sometimes, not all the time, because there's times where I'm just jumping from the speakers and going over, and my methodology then, unfortunately, is I'm controlling the sound over there with the sensitivity on the packs over here. It's cumbersome. Your methodology works much better, but in order to do that, then I have to put those packs in the back of the thing, and then I have the packs sitting out on a table or wherever, the transmitting packs, and I just don't like to go and dig in there and be hooking up wires. So I just go with the throughs or the mix out.
So yeah, so I mean, and when I used to have the coffin style, rack slider, what I was doing at that point, because I didn't have the in-ear monitors at that point, I just had the belt pack type of setup. I mean, depending upon what you're using, I had room in the back of there to then sit the belt pack, like just behind the controller. There's that bit of a gap, and you can kind of stand it up. And with that option to have its own control, you could do that. And this is what you've described a lot of times, John, of using like your booth out for a sub. You could use your booth out for your other speakers. It's not going to give you as much control as a mixer as a full-on mixer would, but it's going to give you at least a gain option, at least a volume option of what you're sending to that other side, without having to mess around with your belt packs and the sensitivity and the audio frequency out and all that stuff. So that is an option that gives you flexibility.
A little bit more flexibility, yeah, for sure. And in situations like we did that with one of the shows Michael and Nicholas did, but they were also up on a stage. So when they were up on a stage and we could do the belt packs from behind, and we basically brought them out to the sides of the coffin. But that was up at put those belt packs at about 6 feet high, and then they're transmitting across the room to the Everse speakers that were up on stands that were about 7 feet high. So basically, it was like above everyone's head. But when I'm at my table and I'm on the floor, and if they're just basically kind of sitting on the table type of that height, that puts them up at about 40 inches off the floor. That means that when my dance floor is full, or there's a lot of bodies between me and that, every body is a what they call a sack full of water that's there to interfere with audio, and every sack full of water has a nasty little transmitter in their pocket wanting to interfere with sound from point A to point B, and it's like, okay, so if I go and I put it from the mix out on the Evolve 50s, and then I run a short little XLR wire up and put the packs basically through the handles of the speakers. That puts it up there about 5 feet high. Then there's a lot less bodies between point A and point B. So we've done both of them. It's just really depending upon what the room calls for.
If you're wanting to hide them a little bit more, I know it's not the topic for tonight, but if you're wanting to hide them potentially a little bit more and you find yourself doing this often, running out of the back of the speaker, I would pick up just basically some of the middle grade Velcro
Mm-hmm.
and put it on the top of your speaker. Your speaker's up, right? People are not going to see the top of your speaker, right? So you put the one piece on that, you put the other piece on the belt pack, you sit it up on the top of there, and that medium grade is all you really need to keep it. You just need to keep it from sliding around from the vibrations, and then put it up on top there, and that gets it higher, which is also a nice benefit. But it also kind of takes it away from that hanging off the side of the speaker with the cable then kind of drooping off the side of the speaker.
I like to have it. I just kind of take some yellow or maybe some, even gray if I
Caution
have.
tape, of course.
Just take some tape and kind of go around the center of it. I find it, helps the sound quality too, to have some good old duct tape across the speaker. It's great.
Nothing adds that bass like a little
little muffled duct tape. Yeah. So wireless connections, I think this is, and last week's Tuesday video and tomorrow's Tuesday video, I talked a little bit about some of these connections. It's come a long way, and it can be done. And Dan's had very good luck with it. I've had very good luck with it. Yes, I've had one ceremony that we did wireless jump from one side of the audience to the other, and for some reason when we first started, there was this little, and I heard it. Nicholas heard it because we were listening for it. Nobody else noticed it. That's been the only, in all of the wireless audio ceremonies we've done here this fall, one glitch. And that was during before we were just ready to put on the song for the wedding party to start coming in, and it was like, and it's like, wow, what was that? And then we were basically really, really cautiously listening because and nothing the rest of the time.
So I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So outside of ceremony sound, do you guys charge extra to bring in speakers? Say you're in that L-shaped room, or John, you're in that thing. Do you guys charge your client extra for extra sound support, or is it just something you do as your current package?
You gonna go first, Dan?
I know we're talking audio, but what I'm saying is
this is all part of the process of
is like if you're gonna invest in and you're gonna bring some extra gear and you're gonna put the hours into setting it up, make sure and pray that it works, like I said, without any glitches. Are you charging your client for it, or is it all gonna be part of your base package?
So I've set myself up in such a way that my base package includes those types of things in my mind, right? The L-shaped room is a little bit different because they provide the speaker, they provide the cable. I'm legitimately just plugging the thing in. But there's a couple other venues that I do where cocktails in another room as well as the room that I'm in. And so for those ones, this past summer, I picked up a third Bose, S1 so that I could pop that in that other room, pop one of the belt packs on it and ready to go. And I bring the belt pack with me all the time. It's in my microphone case. Because if I get there and I'm like, "Ooh, you know what? Maybe I do want to use that. Maybe I do want to have that here." So ideally, should I charge extra for it? Yes, 100%, right? Because, as you said, it's extra equipment, it's extra investment that I made. But in the same respect, sometimes I just in my head go, you know what? I want to do this because I want to make it better. And I think if I were to say, hey, it's an extra $100 or whatever you want to say that for this extra speaker, my client would go no, and then the experience wouldn't be what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
John?
In my situation, I've got different packages: our base package, and then we have our next two quote party packages, we call them. They're variations of that. And it basically I've done similar to Dan, is that when I'm running those, I figured that I'm going to be running two Everse or two at the time before the Everse. I was running two of the 10-inch two-way ELX 200s, but figuring that I'm going to have multiple speakers in the room. If it's just in the corners of the room to spread the sound out during cocktail, that's what I'm going to be doing. If it's having to go and putting one around a corner in the other room, it's part of those 2 packages. So in essence, the times that we go in and we have a room where we don't need the sound, it is what it is. But for most of the time, those 2 packages are utilizing the additional speakers for the systems. And yeah, now
I just asked.
there have been times where I've had to run 3 systems, where I've had the main, and then I've had the 2 remote, and then I've had to run a 3rd system for the ceremony, and they were also, so we, in that case, definitely had charged additional for the ceremony and a ceremony system. So the bases were covered.
As a multi-op, I have to look at my guys and I don't want to wear them out. You know what I'm saying? And we have a venue here it's a 3 systems venue. You do your ceremony, your dinners at one location, and you're partying outside on the back deck.
Yep.
And my guys, want more money for that, and well, understandably so, they're working a lot harder. So as a multi-op, I mean, if it's just me and Dan, I mean, just me like Dan, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna suck it up and just do it because I'm here to do it under my name. But my guys, and I get it where they're coming from. They're spending time away from their families, and they're putting in a lot more extra work, and it is a lot more work. So I would probably have to look at maybe 2 package system and a 3 package system, which we already have.
It also depends upon the level that you're doing with this. So for my ceremonies, it's in my ceremony system. For me to set this up and run it, it might take 30 seconds, where running a cable might take 5, right? It's not something that's doing it incredibly. And I do it because, for me, with the ceremonies, because I want that better sound where I want that sound, right? I don't want to be restricted to, okay, well, I guess I'm going to be here because that's where the power is, or that's where they've got me set up, so that's where my speaker's going to be. No, like, I want my speaker to be where it should be from a sound perspective. For the other rooms, the belt packs, I mean, it's if it's taken them 20 minutes to set this up, it's taken them 18 minutes too long. The belt packs are it's plugging it into an out, doing a clear scan, making sure that you got a clear signal, and plugging in the other end. Like, it is not, and if you're using a battery powered speaker, this is not something that should not take a large amount of time. Yes, it's an extra speaker, but if you're using something like the Everse or the Bose S1, they're small enough, they can be tucked where you need them to. Again, it should not take that much extra time. And to go one step further, before I bought that 3rd speaker, I was taking one of my ceremony ones. So it was already, like, the equipment was already on site. So
I got to think of employees versus me.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
that becomes a big thing.
yeah, totally.
And they're rooming per car. I mean, some guys, they don't use trailers, like, they don't use their personal vehicles. So some have vans, some have some have minivans, some have SUVs.
And that's where the Everse or that type of speaker with those little digital things became. That's what Michael uses. He's got a Honda Fit, and he gets everything in there. And by utilizing some wireless technology to do some of those connections for ceremony and for that extended run, it makes it quick and easy, and he doesn't have some of the gear.
Well, I'm not complaining. I'm just talking, maybe education for new DJs or
exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah. How you get to teach
maybe you want to do.
Yep. Somebody asked about the in-ear systems from Sennheiser. There's actually 3. I didn't know there were 3. There is the XSW in-ear system, which is the least expensive one, and I'm just off their website. The transmitter and one belt pack is $599. Additional belt packs are about $350. So for under $1,000, you can get into that one, and you've got 1 transmitter, 2 receivers. You can add additional receivers, but that's the 2. Then you get, again, that was about $1,000. Then you get into the G4, which is the G4 line is what I utilize for my belt packs because I'm a huge fan of that. I could literally, talking about a barn run, I had a barn run where it was a T shaped, and I was in the top of the corner of the T, and it had to go down and through a common area that had the bathrooms and all the food and everything. And then so basically it was a probably about 120-foot run, but it was going through 3 walls, and there was a lot of congestion. belt pack worked wonderfully through that. I was surprised. I didn't expect it to. But that's the G4, and the transmitter and 2 on the website is $1,500. Then they have a step up from that. They have the SR 2050 system, which looks like it's a bigger device. The unit itself is $17.99, and belt packs for that are $5.99 a piece. So there's a variety of different things out there, and that was just off their website. But I'm a huge fan of the G4 stuff from Sennheiser. It's been very, very good with us, and I literally just bought my third one that we have. So now, actually, no, that's the fourth one that we have in that realm, because they have been very, very good to us.
And you can do, for those of you that are contemplating maybe doing like the belt pack system, you can do the belt pack system for, I want to say under 800. I mean, of course, it's been a little bit since I priced those type of pieces, but it falls very similar in line to, if I remember correctly, to what you would pay for a wireless mic and receiver.
Yeah.
But you got 2 belt packs, so they're both able to run off battery, and you can then, you don't have to worry about plug-in, or you can reach out to Ben and he can make you a plug that will replace the battery for using that if you're with power and you don't need the battery.
Exactly. Yeah, you can get a lot of things done with those, and Ben can help you with that. But yeah, there's and I think there's 2 series when it's just belt pack to belt pack. I think there was the G4 series, and then one is like the 500, and that's the one that I have, and then there's the 112 or something 100 level series. When you do a search and you're looking, you'll see multiple. I again just stick with the I've stuck with the 500 because the first one I bought was that, and I like it that I can go and set the broadcast strength of the transmitter. I can set it as low or high, and I can set that sucker up to high and make those long jumps like that. I'll be using them here on Black Friday when we do the City of Melrose. We do a city block there, and we're making 2 jumps this year that will be 3 jumps this year that are going to be like 250-foot jumps. So it'll be like DJ, and then it'll be wire, and then a big jump here and a big jump here, and then again DJ, and then a big jump here and a wire down that street. So we're doing three different runs that are going to be approximately 500 to 800 feet each run. But there's going to be a spot in all 3 of those runs where we're going to be using packs to jump, and those will work wonderfully. The digital, the XSW units, those little sticks that we use, when we tried to make that jump with those, we were right at the limit. It was a little bit too far, and we had to bring the speaker back a little bit, and it worked. But I would have preferred to have it a little farther, because one of those jumps is a drive-through. And that meant that people had to drive around my speaker stand, and it's like, okay, we just put a big yellow garbage can next to it, so that people would, not drive over the garbage can. But yeah, I didn't like that. So this year we're doing it better. Doing it better indeed. So when it comes to the wireless stuff, the balance the XLR connections, it is typically not sending a balanced digital signal over. It's basically taking that signal and it's sending the audio signal over, stereo wise in some of them not stereo, but it's not doing the balanced as we think about in the wires. And then the other side is basically catching it and then feeding that signal in on pin 2, I think it is, as the proper signal, and feeding it. The idea is that between the transmitter and the receiver, you're not picking up any noise. And if you're picking up noise in that digital connection between the 2, you're going to know it, because it's going to sound like horrible. It's going to sound like your old TV back in the day when you had a tuner and it was shh, that kind of crap. So it's still utilizing the same type of connections. It's just not sending the audio as an XLR wire would. Is that important? Not really. All you need to know is put fresh batteries in, and they typically work. It's a big part of it. So anyway, I just want to kind of go through a few things there with some of the things that we've used and we've experienced with our shows. And yeah, do you have to do wireless? No. Do you have to have extra speakers? No. Many people, Cubby and his team have been doing events a long time, very successfully, and it just hasn't something they've added to their show. This fall, Michael and I just have had a lot of opportunity where we needed it. Dan's been in a lot of barns this year, and he's needed those types of connections. So it just really depends, where you are and what the world of events throws your way.
I'm looking to look into them. I really am. But I think I'll wait till after NAMM. It's getting towards the end of the season. It's hard to invest into gear at the end of the season. You got to get it the first of the season and you can recover. But yeah, so I'll probably wait till a little bit after NAMM, see if maybe somebody breaks something out new. Maybe some prices will go down
You never know.
after.
Yeah, and there's always, Black Friday is a good time. It was, I believe it was 4 years, 4 or 5. It was in the 18 or 19, 2018 or 2019, where somebody had those little XSW sticks. They'd come out and it was like that, and they had them like at I think I picked up one pair for $200, and I think now they're 319. I saw it today, so somebody had it on sale and I bought one. And those are the kind of things, when I find those, I put those up on Facebook when there's the daily deals wherever I find them. And of course, Robin's got a Facebook group out there for Robin. If you want to share that link for your DJ deals in the chat, that'd be awesome too, please. But yeah, she's got a little group that shares different deals they find online, and that's kind of a fun little group to follow, and especially getting closer to Black Friday, and people are like finding deals, and it's like, yes, everybody loves to find a deal. So yeah, Robin, if you could bounce that in there. So, but yeah, tomorrow, last week I think I talked about the XSW connections. Tomorrow I'm going to be actually talking about the belt packs and showing you guys a little bit about that in tomorrow morning's video, so you'll be able to see those. And I have all the links and such of the actual units that I use will be in tomorrow's video. Last week's video had last week was belt packs. Is it this? Anyway, one was this week. We were out of town last week with a Louisville convention, so I'm still messed up from that. We'd scheduled everything 2 weeks ago, so it's like once anyway. But all the links are below those videos for the different products, so you can go check them out and see exactly which ones we've been using very successfully. So tomorrow night, Big Daddy's going to be coming back again, and he's got was it JW Yeager? I think is going to be with him tomorrow night. So he's really excited about that. That'll be coming to you at 9:00 Eastern, and then this Saturday we're actually going to be starting winter in Minnesota. We've been like in this extended summer, early fall weather. It's 65 degrees during the day, beautiful weather. So we've been going crazy in fall sports. Well, they're all done. Winter hits Saturday. Saturday night, we're expecting a snowstorm. So then it's getting time for us to get Ben Stowe back into the Tuesday evening slot. So we're going to be getting him in there. So you're going to get a double dose on Tuesday nights of a Big Daddy show and a Ben Stowe show. So it's going to be kind of a busy couple of weeks here, so we're going to get those ready to go. But Big Daddy's tomorrow, and then I'm hoping that next week we can do the doubleheader of Big Daddy Ben Stowe back to back and have some fun with that. So, and then Wednesday, Dan's got his morning spot, and then Wednesday night we have the music show and the Hanging with Howie. They'll be streaming, so you guys can check out the discussion there. And in a few minutes, you can go to djntv.com/chill. And Hanging with Howie, they record on Monday nights, and you guys can hang out and have some fun there. So, yeah, I think that's about it for tonight. Anything else fun, guys?
No.
Yeah.
Heard about your snowstorm.
Yeah. And I could send some your way, but I don't think it's going to go that far south. I think it's basically going to hit. I think it's hitting west, mountains coming through the Dakotas, and I think we're just right on the edge of it. So,
we got 45 degrees on Saturday. I've already talked to my bride. You still gonna be outside?
Oh, see, I'm actually in the most indoor place I've had this whole fall. It's like, yes, barns are all done. We made it through the barn season with only a little bit of cold. I'm good with this. And the Saturday we're actually
tent wedding this past weekend, and I was hot.
Oh,
yeah, it was warm.
They had 5 heaters going. Like, no, it was cold weather. Don't get me wrong. It's cold and windy. But they had 5 heaters going to the point that I actually was like, ooh, I'm like a little too warm at this place.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, that makes up for some other ones I've had.
And that leads me to, if you follow my posts when there's a good deal from Home Depot, there was a fan that would have saved Dan.
Yeah, I didn't think to bring it when it was freezing.
Yeah. I've got mine in the truck just because until we get to a point in the season, it's like you never know. And it's really cool. So, all right, take us home, Dan.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you very much for taking time out of your night to join us. But hopefully, we answered your audio connection questions and different ways that you can go about it. And if not, by all means, put your stuff in the comments, and we'd be more than happy to try and get back to you when we can. Have yourself a good one. We'll see y'all next time. Bye, everybody.